The conference room aboard the Galactic Council's flagship stretched impossibly wide, its crystalline walls showing the swirling nebula beyond. Ambassador Chen Wei stood at the podium, her dark eyes sweeping across the assembled representatives of 100 different species. The Kraxan delegation sat in their pressure suits, their tentacles writhing with barely contained amusement. The silicon-based Vendari sparkled under the artificial lights, their crystalline forms radiating superiority. The insectoid hive queens clicked their mandibles in what passed for laughter among their kind. They all thought humanity was weak. They all thought Earth was just another primitive world that had stumbled into space travel by accident. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, Chen began, her voice carrying clearly through the universal translators. Earth comes before you today with a final warning. The laughter grew louder. The Kraxan Prime Minister slapped a tentacle against his desk. A warning? From Earth? Your species can barely manage faster than light travel. Your ships are held together with primitive alloys. Your weapons are based on kinetic principles that we abandoned millennia ago. Chen remained perfectly still, waiting for the mockery to die down. Behind her, the holographic display showed Earth, blue and green and beautiful, spinning slowly in space. Yes, Prime Minister, a warning. For the past 50 years, since humanity joined the galactic community, we have endured your insults. We have accepted unfair trade agreements. We have watched as you denied us access to advanced technologies. We have remained peaceful as you colonized systems we discovered first. Because you are weak, interrupted the Vendari collective, their harmonized voices ringing like broken glass. The galaxy operates on simple principles. The strong prosper. The weak serve. Earth serves. No, Chen said quietly. Earth restrains itself. The room fell silent for a moment before erupting in even louder laughter. The Hive Queen's wings buzzed with mirth. The gelatinous Orathi wobbled with amusement in their tanks. Chen touched a control on her podium. The image of Earth disappeared, replaced by historical footage. Tell me, esteemed council members, have any of you actually studied human history? The first image showed ancient battlefields, humans fighting with bronze swords, then iron, then gunpowder. The images flashed faster. Machine guns, tanks, aircraft, nuclear explosions that turned sand to glass. In less than 10,000 years, Chen continued, humanity went from stone tools to splitting atoms. We developed spaceflight only 60 years after our first powered aircraft. We decoded our own genome. We created artificial intelligence. We learned to harness the fundamental forces of the universe. Primitive achievements, scoffed the Kraxan Prime Minister. Though his tentacles had stopped writhing quite so enthusiastically, Chen smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. Primitive? Perhaps. But consider this. Every other species in this room developed under peaceful conditions. The Vendari evolved in crystal caves with no predators. The Kraxan emerged in deep ocean trenches where they were apex life forms from the beginning. The Hive Queens faced no competition on their world. She paused, letting her words sink in. Humanity evolved on a death world. Everything on Earth, from the smallest microbe to the largest predator, evolved in constant competition. Our own bodies carry the legacy of billions of years of warfare at the cellular level. Our immune systems are armies. Our brains are tactical computers designed by evolution to outthink both predators and prey. The footage changed. Now it showed human athletes. Their bodies pushed to impossible limits. Soldiers training in conditions that would kill most galactic species. Scientists working with pathogens that made alien bioweapons look tame. We learned to work together not because we are naturally peaceful, but because we learned that cooperation made us even more dangerous. We developed ethics and morality, not because we are inherently good, but because we needed rules to prevent us from destroying ourselves with our own capacity for violence. Ambassador Chen stepped away from the podium, walking slowly across the stage. For 50 years, Earth has participated in the Galactic Council. We have followed your laws. We have accepted your restrictions. We have limited our military to the pathetic defense forces you permit. We have shared our music, our art, our culture. We have been model citizens of the galaxy. She stopped, turning to face the assembly again. But make no mistake, this has been a choice. Every day, humanity chooses peace. Every day, we choose to hold back. Every day, we choose to be better than our nature demands. The room had grown quiet. The Arathi had stopped wobbling. The Hive Queen's wings were still. But choices can be changed. Chen continued. For 5 decades, we have asked for fair treatment, for equal access to technology, for the return of colonies stolen from us, for respect. And for 5 decades, you have refused. You have pushed, and pushed, and pushed, believing that because we choose peace, we are not capable of war. She returned to the podium, her hands gripping its edges. This is your warning. Earth is done holding back. We are done pretending to be weak. We are done accepting second-class status in a galaxy we are more than capable of dominating. The Kraxan Prime Minister's skin had darkened to a mottled purple, a sign of agitation. You dare threaten the Galactic Council? Your entire fleet consists of less than 1,000 ships. The fleet you know about? Chen corrected. The fleet we built according to your restrictions. Tell me, Prime Minister, did you really think a species that went from horses to space travel in less than 2 centuries would simply accept artificial limitations on our development? She touched her control panel again. The display showed star maps, but not the familiar ones the Council knew. These showed dead zones, areas of space marked as too dangerous for travel, nebulae that blocked sensors, asteroid fields too dense to navigate. For 50 years, we have been busy. Every restriction you placed on us, we found a way around. Every technology you denied us, we developed ourselves. Every insult you delivered, we remembered. The display zoomed in on one of the dead zones. Suddenly, it wasn't empty at all. Thousands of ships hung in the void, their hulls black as space itself. They didn't look like the cobbled-together vessels Earth was known for. These were predators, built for a single purpose. The Phantom Fleet, Chen announced. 20,000 vessels. Built in secret, using principles you said were impossible for a primitive species to understand. Each one carries weapons based on human ingenuity. Not copies of your technology. Not improvements on galactic standards. Entirely human designs, created by a species that has spent its entire existence finding new ways to kill. The Vendari Collective's harmonics had taken on a discordant tone. Impossible. We would have detected the construction. The resource allocation alone would be undetectable if you knew how to hide it, Chen interrupted. Did you know that human hackers have been inside your systems for decades? Not causing damage, just watching, learning, preparing. Your security systems are designed to keep out other galactic species, creatures that think in predictable patterns. They were never designed to stop humans, who cut their teeth on warfare against their own kind. She let that sink in before continuing. Our warning is this. Earth withdraws from the Galactic Council. Effective immediately. We are declaring a 10-light-year exclusion zone around our home system. Any ship that enters without permission will be destroyed. The 17 colonies you stole from us will be returned within 1 standard galactic month. Or we will take them back ourselves. The technology you have denied us will be provided. Or we will take that too. This is madness. The Hive Queens spoke as one, their voices buzzing with ultrasonic harmonics. You cannot stand against the combined might of the galaxy. Chen actually laughed. The combined might of the galaxy? You mean the fleets that have never fought a real war? The weapons designed by committee to be just effective enough? The soldiers who have never known true desperation? She leaned forward. Let me tell you about human warfare. We don't just defeat our enemies. We break them. We don't just destroy their ships. We destroy their will to fight. We don't just kill their soldiers. We make their entire civilization question whether resistance is worth the cost. We invented the concept of total war. We perfected the art of psychological warfare. We developed weapons so terrible that we had to create international laws to prevent their use. And those were weapons we used against ourselves, against other humans who understood the rules of engagement. The footage on the display changed one more time. It showed human history, but focused on something different. The rebuilding after wars. Former enemies becoming allies, civilizations rising from ashes stronger than before. But here is the most important thing you need to understand, Chen said, her voice softening. Humans are capable of terrible violence. Yes. But we are also capable of incredible mercy. We can forgive. We can rebuild. We can turn enemies into friends. That is why we have held back. That is why we have chosen peace. Because we know what we are capable of, and we hope to spare the galaxy from learning it firsthand. She straightened, her expression hardening again. That time has passed. You have been warned. Earth is done holding back. You have 1 month to decide. Treat us as equals. Or discover why our world's children grow up playing games of war. Why our entertainment is filled with stories of conflict. Why our oldest monuments are fortresses and weapons. The silence in the room was complete. Even the atmospheric processors seemed to have quieted. 1 month, Chen repeated. After that, you will learn why humanity's greatest achievement was not reaching the stars. It was learning to chain the monster that evolution made us into, and you will learn what happens when we let that monster loose. She turned and walked toward the exit, pausing at the threshold. Oh, and counsel? You might want to check your military databases. I think you'll find that all your tactical data on human capabilities has been edited. What you thought you knew about us was only what we wanted you to see. The door closed behind her with a soft hiss. In the conference room, 100 species sat in stunned silence, each running calculations, each arriving at the same terrible conclusion. They had made a mistake. On the screens around the room, the image of Earth's phantom fleet hung like a promise of violence. Black ships against the darker black of space. Waiting. The predator had shown its teeth, and the prey were only just beginning to understand their position in the food chain. The Kraxan Prime Minister was the first to speak, his voice barely above a whisper. Contact Fleet Command. All of them. Every military asset we have. What do we tell them? Asked an aide, tentacles trembling. The Prime Minister's chromatophores shifted to the deep black of terror. Tell them the humans are done pretending. Across the galaxy, emergency sessions were called. Defense fleets were mobilized. Ancient weapons were pulled from storage. Treaties were signed between species that had been enemies for millennia. They all knew the truth now. Earth had warned them. The monster was awake, and it was hungry. The galaxy had pushed humanity too far. And now they would learn why human children still played games of conquest. Why human literature was filled with tales of war. Why human history was written in blood and fire. The war without mercy had begun. And for the first time in galactic history, every species felt the cold touch of genuine fear. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the ENS Prometheus, humanity's flagship, hidden in the dark between stars. Through the viewports, she could see the rest of the Phantom Fleet, 20,000 ships hanging motionless in the void. They had waited 50 years for this moment. The time for hiding was over. Admiral, her communications officer reported, we're receiving transmissions from across the galaxy. The Council is mobilizing everything they have. Sarah smiled grimly. Good. Let them come. Are our infiltration protocols ready? Yes, Admiral. Every major military network in the galaxy has our sleeper programs. They've been dormant for decades, waiting for activation. She nodded. The aliens had never understood human patience, the ability to plan not just for years but for generations. They thought in terms of their own lifespans, but humans had learned to think beyond individual lives. The Phantom Fleet was not the work of one administration or even one generation. It was the culmination of humanity's greatest skill, the ability to work together across time itself. Activate Operation Pandora, she ordered. Across the galaxy, in thousands of military installations, computer systems that had functioned perfectly for decades suddenly began displaying new information. Tactical databases updated themselves. Star maps revealed hidden human installations. Fleet positions that commanders thought were secret appeared on enemy screens. 50 years of human infiltration revealed itself in a single, coordinated moment. On the Kraxan homeworld, Fleet Commander Vexhai watched in horror as his tactical display lit up with human positions. They were everywhere. Hidden bases in asteroid fields, camouflaged stations in nebulae, entire fleets hiding in the sensor shadows of gas giants. "How?" he whispered, his tentacles going pale with shock. "How did we not see this?" His aide's chromatophores shifted to patterns of confusion. "Sir, according to these readings, we did see them. Multiple scout ships reported these positions over the years, but the reports were always classified as sensor ghosts or equipment malfunctions." Vexhai's blood ran cold. "Show me those reports. Show me who classified them." The data appeared on screen. Every single dismissal had been authorized by officers who had attended exchange programs on Earth. Officers who had been invited to experience human culture. Officers who had returned speaking highly of human hospitality and peaceful intentions. "They turned our own people," Vexhai said slowly. "Not through force or coercion, but through friendship." It was a concept that horrified him more than any weapon. The humans hadn't just infiltrated their military networks. They had infiltrated their minds, their cultures, their very understanding of reality. Every officer who had dismissed a report of human activity had genuinely believed they were doing the right thing. The humans had made them want to help. On Earth, World President Maria Rodriguez stood before the United Nations of Humanity. The old building in New York had been rebuilt many times, but it still carried the weight of history. Today, that history would take a new turn. "My fellow humans," she began, her voice carrying to every corner of the planet and beyond. "For 50 years, we have endured humiliation. We have accepted second-class status. We have smiled while they called us primitive. We have been peaceful while they stole from us. Today, that changes." The crowd erupted in cheers. Not the desperate cheers of the oppressed, but the confident roar of a predator that had finally been given permission to hunt. "But let me be clear," Rodriguez continued. "We do not seek genocide. We do not desire the extinction of other species. What we demand is simple: respect, equality, recognition of our rightful place in the galaxy. They will give us these things willingly, or we will take them by force." She paused, her expression hardening. "Release the documentation." Across the galaxy, every news network suddenly received the same package of information. 50 years of documented insults, trade agreements designed to keep Earth poor, secret communications between council members discussing how to keep humanity contained, video evidence of human colonies being forcibly removed to make way for other species, the medical experimentation on human prisoners, justified because humans were classified as semi-sentient. But more than that, the package contained proof of human restraint. Military plans that had been drawn up and then shelved. Weapons that had been designed but never built. Retaliation that had been considered but rejected in favor of diplomatic solutions. The galaxy saw, in explicit detail, every time humanity had chosen peace when war would have been justified. Every time they had turned the other cheek. Every time they had held back. The message was clear. Humanity's patience was not weakness. It was mercy. And that mercy had run out. In the Vendari Collective's crystal cities, the harmonized consciousness struggled to process what they were seeing. They had always believed their crystalline forms and group mind made them superior to the chaotic, individualistic humans. Now they watched as human hackers danced through their networks like ghosts, leaving messages written in pure mathematics. "We could have destroyed you 50 times over," one message read. "We didn't. Remember that." The human cyber warfare specialists weren't just skilled. They were artists. They didn't simply break into systems. They made the systems want to be broken into. They found the resonance frequencies of Vendari crystal-based computers and played them like instruments, turning security protocols into symphonies of destruction. On the bridge of the Prometheus, Admiral Chen watched the tactical display with satisfaction. Status report. All Phantom Fleet vessels report ready, Admiral. The Mars shipyards have dropped their camouflage. The Jupiter defense grid is online. The asteroid belt mining operations are converting to military production. She nodded. The asteroid belt had been humanity's greatest deception. For 50 years, the galaxy had laughed at Earth's primitive mining operations, never realizing that every single asteroid base was actually a weapons platform in disguise. Millions of tons of processed metals, ostensibly for trade, were actually hull plating for warships. The mining lasers that carved up asteroids could just as easily carve up enemy fleets. Admiral, the sensor officer called out, Kraxan fleet emerging from hyperspace. 3,000 vessels. Only 3,000? Sarah mused. They're testing us. Very well. Deploy Task Force Lightning. Let's show them what human engineering can do. Task Force Lightning consisted of just 50 ships, but they were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Human engineers had taken the basic principles of FTL travel and weaponized them in ways the other species had never imagined. Why settle for conventional weapons when you could turn the very fabric of spacetime into a blade? The Kraxan fleet, confident in their 60-to-1 numerical advantage, moved to engage. Their plasma weapons were powerful, their shields strong, their tactics refined over millennia of space combat. They lasted 17 minutes. The human ships didn't fight like anything in the galactic databases. They phase-shifted in and out of reality, appearing inside enemy shield bubbles to deliver point-blank kinetic strikes before vanishing again. They created micro-singularities that ate through hull plating like acid. They fired missiles that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, impossible to intercept because they weren't entirely in any one dimension until they detonated. But the true horror was the precision. The human ships didn't simply destroy their enemies. They dissected them. Surgical strikes took out weapon systems, then engines, then life support, leaving the crews alive but helpless as their ships were carved apart around them. Commander Vex High watched the destruction of his forward fleet from his flagship, his tentacles rigid with shock. What are they? They're humans, sir, his tactical officer responded, voice shaking. This is what humans do. They don't just wage war, they perfect it. They turn it into science. The worst part was the efficiency. The human ships moved with a coordinated precision that made the Hive Queen's collective consciousness look clumsy. Each ship knew exactly where every other ship would be, what it would do, how it would move. They fought not as a fleet but as a single organism with 50 bodies. Sir, the communications officer interrupted. We're receiving a transmission from the human flagship. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the screen, her expression calm. Commander Vex High, your fleet has been disabled, not destroyed. We have medical ships standing by to assist your wounded. Surrender now, and we will treat your crews with the respect that warriors deserve. And if we refuse? Vex High asked, though he already knew the answer. Then we stop being merciful, Chen replied simply. Your choice, Commander. You have 30 seconds. Vex High looked at his displays. 3,000 ships reduced to floating debris in 17 minutes. By 50 human vessels. The main Phantom fleet hadn't even engaged yet. We surrender, he said quietly. And may the depths have mercy on us all. As the medical ships moved in to rescue Kraxan survivors, news of the battle spread across the galaxy at faster than light speeds. The mighty Kraxan fleet, defeated in minutes, not destroyed, but defeated and then saved. It was almost more terrifying than simple annihilation would have been. The humans weren't just powerful. They were in control. They could destroy, or they could preserve. They could kill, or they could heal. They held the power of gods, and they wielded it with the precision of machines and the passion of the demons they claimed didn't exist. On 100 worlds, emergency sessions continued. The Galactic Council tried to coordinate a response, but their networks were compromised. Every plan they made, the humans seemed to know. Every fleet they gathered, human ships were already waiting. Every weapon they prepared, the humans had a counter for. It was like fighting ghosts, that could read minds and predict the future. But the truth was simpler and more terrifying. Humans had spent 50 years studying their enemies, learning their patterns, understanding their psychology, preparing for every possible response. The Hive Queens, with their collective consciousness, were perhaps the first to truly understand. As they compiled data from across their space, a horrifying picture emerged. Human cultural exchanges hadn't just been about sharing art and music. Every human visitor had been gathering intelligence. Every gift had been a Trojan horse. Every friendship had been reconnaissance. They played the long game. The queens buzzed to each other across their psychic networks. 50 years of perfect deception. They made us believe they were harmless while they studied our every weakness. But even the Hive Queens didn't grasp the full scope of humanity's preparation until the colonies started rebelling. On 17 worlds stolen from Earth, underground movements suddenly emerged. Movements that had been built over decades by human agents who had volunteered to be left behind when their colonies were seized. These agents hadn't tried to fight. They had integrated. They had made friends. They had started families with locals who sympathized with their plight. They had built networks of allies who genuinely believed in their cause. And when the signal came, those networks activated, not with violence, at first. With strikes. With protests. With civil disobedience. The galaxy watched in confusion as their own citizens stood with humans, demanding justice for the species they had been taught to despise. Human propaganda hadn't preached human superiority. It had preached equality, justice, fair treatment for all species. Ideas that resonated with the oppressed across the galaxy. On the Urathi homeworld, gelatinous citizens who had never known violence in their entire evolutionary history watched human demonstrations of martial arts. They saw beings who had turned violence into philosophy, warfare into art, destruction into a path toward enlightenment. It was terrifying and beautiful, and completely alien to everything they understood about existence. How do we fight beings who have made peace with violence? The Orathi Prime asked their council. How do we defeat an enemy who has turned their greatest weakness into their greatest strength? There was no answer. Because the truth was becoming clear to species across the galaxy. They had never really known humanity at all. They had seen what humans wanted them to see. They had believed what humans wanted them to believe. And now the masks were coming off, revealing the true face of a species that had evolved in a crucible of conflict and emerged not as brutes, but as artists of war. The first day after Earth's warning saw the destruction of 12 more fleets that had moved against human positions. Each battle was different. The humans adapted, evolved, learned. They used tactics from their entire history, from Alexander's phalanxes translated into three-dimensional space combat, to guerrilla warfare techniques developed in jungles and deserts, and applied to asteroid fields and nebulae. They showed the galaxy warfare as humanity practiced it. Not just violence, but psychology. Not just destruction, but transformation. Not just victory, but dominance so complete that the enemy's will to fight evaporated like morning mist. By the end of that first day, the Galactic Council had received surrender notices from 37 member species. Not because they had been defeated, but because they had seen what defeat would look like. The humans hadn't just prepared for war. They had prepared to win so completely that war became unnecessary. President Rodriguez addressed humanity again that night. Today, we showed the galaxy a fraction of our strength. Not to terrorize, but to teach. They called us primitive because we still knew how to fight. They thought evolution meant abandoning violence, but we know better. Evolution means controlling violence, directing it, making it serve a purpose greater than mere destruction. She paused, her eyes hard. Tomorrow, we begin Phase 2. We will reclaim what was stolen from us. We will take our rightful place in the galaxy, and we will show them that humanity's greatest strength has never been our weapons, or our ships, or our strategies. It has been our ability to make others want to join us, to turn enemies into allies, to build communities from conflict. The war without mercy has begun. But mercy, as they will learn, is something we choose to give, not something we are incapable of taking away. As the transmission ended, humans across the galaxy prepared for the next phase. The Phantom Fleet moved out of hiding, taking positions throughout human space and beyond. The underground movements on stolen colonies prepared for liberation. The cyber warfare specialists prepared their next wave of digital attacks. But perhaps most terrifying of all, human diplomats prepared for negotiations, because if there was one thing humanity had perfected even beyond warfare, it was the art of making deals that looked fair, while ensuring they always came out on top. The galaxy had been warned. The monster was awake, and it was hungry for justice. 3 weeks had passed since Earth's warning. 3 weeks that had reshaped the galaxy forever. Admiral Chen stood in the ruins of the Galactic Council chambers, the same room where Ambassador Chen had delivered humanity's ultimatum. The crystalline walls were cracked now, battle damage from the short-lived siege of the capital world. "Admiral," Colonel Marcus Thompson reported, "the last holdouts have signaled their surrender. The Vendari Collective is ready to negotiate." Sarah nodded. The Vendari had held out the longest, their crystalline forms and hive mind making them difficult to defeat through conventional means. But humans had not relied on conventional means. They had used something far more devastating. Empathy. "Bring their representatives in," she ordered. "And Colonel? Make sure the medical teams are standing by. Full treatment for their wounded." The Vendari delegation that entered was a shadow of their former arrogance. Their crystalline bodies showed stress fractures, their harmonics discordant with fear and confusion. They had expected annihilation. Instead, they had faced something worse. Understanding. Human psychological warfare specialists had not attacked the Vendari directly. Instead, they had sent them music, art, poetry, stories of human children playing in crystal caves, of human scientists studying mineral formations, of human philosophers contemplating the nature of consciousness in all its forms. They had shown the Vendari that humans understood them, appreciated them, saw beauty in their existence. And then they had shown them what that existence would look like under human rule, protected, valued, integrated. Not as servants, but as partners. The choice had broken them more thoroughly than any weapon could have. "You have won," the lead Vendari harmonized, their voice carrying notes of despair. "What are your terms?" Admiral Chen gestured to the chair across from her. "Sit. Let's discuss the future." The negotiation that followed would become a template for human diplomacy. Earth didn't demand tribute or surrender in the traditional sense. Instead, they offered integration, trade agreements that were actually fair, technology exchanges that benefited both sides, military alliances that turned former enemies into the first line of Earth's defense. "You're not conquering us," the Vendari said slowly, their harmonics shifting to confusion. "You're recruiting us. Conquest is temporary," Sarah explained. "Partnership is forever. You have 2 choices. Join humanity in building a better galaxy, or remain outside looking in as everyone else prospers. Your choice." Across human space, similar scenes played out. The 17 stolen colonies were returned, but the humans didn't expel the alien settlers. Instead, they offered them citizenship, full rights and responsibilities in the human sphere. Many accepted, drawn by the promise of a society that valued merit over species, achievement over ancestry. The Kraxan found their defeated fleets not just repaired but upgraded with human technology. "Why?" Commander Vex High asked when he was summoned to sign the alliance treaty. "Why help us?" "Because you're warriors," President Rodriguez explained simply. "We respect that. You fought well with inferior technology and flawed tactics. Imagine what you could do as our allies, with our training and equipment. Imagine the glory your people could achieve." It was a masterstroke of psychology. Humans didn't demand the Kraxan abandon their warrior culture. They offered to perfect it, to channel it, to give it purpose beyond mere conquest. Within days, young Kraxan were volunteering to train with human military units, eager to learn the art of war from the masters themselves. The Hive Queens faced a different approach. Human diplomats arrived on their worlds not with demands but with questions. They wanted to learn about the collective consciousness, to understand how individual identity could exist within a group mind. They brought philosophers and scientists eager to explore the implications. "You're studying us," the queens realized. "Even now, in victory, you're studying us." "Of course," the lead diplomat replied. "You have achieved something humanity has dreamed of since we first looked at the stars. True unity, without losing individuality. We want to learn from you, even as we ask you to learn from us." It was seductive. The queens had spent millennia believing their way was superior, only to be offered validation from their conquerors. Not conquest, but cultural exchange. Not dominance, but mutual growth. But perhaps the most stunning transformation happened on Earth itself. As the reality of victory settled in, humanity faced its greatest challenge: what to do with absolute power. The debates raged in every forum, from the halls of government to the corners of the internet. Some called for retribution, for making the galaxy pay for 50 years of humiliation. Others argued for isolation, for building a human empire apart from the other species. But the voice that won was neither vengeful nor isolationist. It was the voice of humanity's deepest nature. The builders, the dreamers, the ones who looked at the stars and saw not territory to conquer, but wonders to explore. "We have proven we can destroy," President Rodriguez said in her address to the combined species of the galaxy. "Now we must prove we can create. We have shown we can wage war without mercy. Now we must show we can build peace without weakness." The galactic charter that emerged from the months of negotiation that followed was unlike anything that had come before. Gone was the hierarchy based on technological advancement or military might. In its place was a system based on contribution and merit. Species were valued not for their power but for their unique perspectives and abilities. The Vendari became the galaxy's premier engineers, their crystalline minds perfect for structural harmonics. The Kraxan formed the backbone of the new combined defense forces, their warrior spirit channeled into protecting rather than conquering. The Hive Queens revolutionized communication networks, their collective consciousness enabling instantaneous coordination across vast distances. And humanity? Humanity became the bridge. The translators, not just of language but of culture. The species that could find common ground between the most diverse forms of life. The warriors who chose peace, the destroyers who chose to build, the monsters who chose to be protectors. But they never forgot what they were capable of. The Phantom Fleet remained, silent sentinels in the dark between stars. The underground networks stayed in place, sleeping but ready. The weapon designs were archived, not destroyed. Earth's children still played war games, still told stories of conflict, still carried the legacy of their evolutionary heritage. "We are humanity," became the motto of the new age. We choose peace, but we remember war. We offer friendship, but we enforce respect. We build together, but we stand alone if we must. The transformation wasn't without its challenges. Old resentments died hard. Some species struggled to accept human leadership, even when it was earned rather than imposed. There were incidents, conflicts, moments when the galaxy held its breath, wondering if the humans would revert to their warlike nature. But each time, humanity surprised them. Not with weakness, but with measured strength. Not with forgiveness of transgressions, but with proportional response. They didn't rule through fear or love, but through something more complex. Respect born from understanding that cooperation was a choice, not a necessity. 5 years after Earth's warning, the galaxy was unrecognizable. Trade flowed freely, unencumbered by artificial restrictions. Technology advanced at rates previously thought impossible as species shared knowledge without fear. New colonies spread across the stars. Joint ventures between species that had been enemies for millennia. Admiral Chen, now retired, stood in her garden on Earth, watching the stars. Her granddaughter played at her feet, building towers with blocks that shifted between dimensions, a toy that would have been impossible before the Great Transformation. "Grandma," the child asked, "why did the aliens think we were weak?" Sarah smiled, lifting the girl onto her lap. Because they mistook our choice for peace as an inability to wage war. They thought evolution meant leaving violence behind. But we knew better. We knew that true strength wasn't in destroying your enemies, but in turning them into friends. But we had big ships and scary weapons, the child protested. We could have just won with those. Yes, Sarah agreed. We could have ruled through fear. But fear fades. Respect endures. We showed them we could destroy them. And then we showed them we would rather build with them. That's why they follow us now. Not because they have to, but because they want to. The child considered this with the seriousness only a 5-year-old could manage. So we're still strong? The strongest, Sarah confirmed. Because we have the strength to choose. To be warriors or peacemakers. Destroyers or builders. Monsters or guardians. And we have the wisdom to know when to be which. Above them, ships passed through Earth's orbital space. Kraxan military vessels flying alongside human cruisers, Vendari crystal constructs sharing space with Hive Queen bioships, a dozen species moving in harmony, working together, building something greater than any one of them could achieve alone. But in the dark spaces between the stars, the Phantom Fleet still waited. Upgraded now, with the best technology the galaxy could offer, crewed by humans and their allies, standing ready. A reminder that Earth's mercy was a gift, not a guarantee. That humanity had chosen to chain the monster, but the chains were of their own making and could be removed at will. The war without mercy had ended not with conquest but with transformation. Not with one species dominating others but with all species finding their place in a greater whole. It was, perhaps, the most human victory of all. Winning not just the war, but the peace that followed. Remember, President Rodriguez had said in her final address before stepping down, we are the species that weaponized friendship. That turned enemies into allies, not through force but through understanding. We are the proof that strength and compassion are not opposites but partners. We are humanity. We remember war, so we can choose peace. The galaxy had learned the greatest lesson humanity had to offer. That true strength lay not in the ability to destroy, but in the choice not to. That mercy from a position of power was not weakness but the ultimate expression of control. That the most dangerous predator was the one that could choose to be a protector instead. And so the monster slept again, but lightly. Always ready, always watching, always choosing peace while remembering war. The galaxy prospered under humanity's guidance. Not because humans were perfect, but because they understood imperfection. Not because they were peaceful, but because they had mastered war so completely that they could choose to wage peace instead. The children of Earth still played their war games. The stories of conflict were still told. The capacity for violence still lurked in human DNA. A gift from millions of years of evolution on a death world. But now, it served a greater purpose. The knowledge that peace was not the absence of conflict, but the mastery of it. We warned you. Humanity told the galaxy. We told you we were holding back. Now you know why. Not because we couldn't win, but because we knew that true victory looks different than you imagined. Welcome to the future. Let's build it together. And in the vast expanse of space, 100 species worked as one, guided by the hand that could have crushed them but chose to lift them instead. The war without mercy had become a peace with purpose, and the galaxy would never be the same. The monster had shown its teeth, demonstrated its power, and then chosen to be something more. It was the most human thing of all. The transformation of weakness into strength, of strength into wisdom, and of wisdom into the choice to be better than nature demanded. Earth had warned them. Now, they understood. And in understanding, they found not subjugation but liberation. Not conquest but community. Not an ending but a beginning. The age of humanity had begun. And the galaxy, for the first time in its long history, was ready for whatever came next.